We're coming off one of the most highly anticipated off seasons in Philadelphia 76ers history, but there's been this lingering storyline hanging over the franchise regarding the future of the location of the team. Well, we got an update, and it seems that the Philadelphia 76ers are set to remain the Philadelphia 76ers, as the new plan to stay in the Market Street 76 place has been approved by the mayor of Philadelphia. Still a couple steps to go through, but I do want to acknowledge what we know as far as the state of the team before we get back to some real hoops chatter on the timeline here. So I want to break things down exactly what we got here. The latest update that we did get from Mayor Cheryl Parker, who said, quote, "An agreement has been reached that will ensure that our Sixers are staying home. My administration has reached an agreement with the Philadelphia 76ers for an arena in Center City." And she continues on to say that, "As your mayor, I'm speaking from my City Hall office with a very important announcement. I am proud to share that I've made my decision and an agreement has been reached to ensure that our Sixers are staying home. I wholeheartedly believe this is the right deal for the people of Philadelphia. To the people of Chinatown, please know that I hear you. We have the best Chinatown in the United States, and I'm committed to working together to support it. I'll have a lot more to say in a formal presentation coming soon." So a lot to address here. There's been kind of a lot going on behind the scenes with this. I haven't really addressed this head on the channel because, to be perfectly honest, I would much prefer to be talking about basketball, my excitement for this team on the floor, but I do want to properly acknowledge what's going on and kind of lay out the two sides of the argument here. So really what the situation is, we all love the sports complex of Philadelphia, that it is one of the famed things that we, of course, all look forward to, with Citizens Bank Park, Lincoln Financial Field, and the Wells Fargo Center all sharing the parking lot there, the tailgate atmosphere that is there. I can speak personally, coming from the media side of things, a little bit, that one of the coolest moments to me was always walking out at the end of Sixers game after doing my writing, doing my interviews, leaving there at like 1, 2 a.m., seeing nobody in the parking lot and just looking up at all those three stadiums. It's really cool to me. It is something that I think people think of when they think of Philadelphia. It's something that I know friends of mine from out of towns, that whenever we've gone to games or gone into the city to attend an event, something that has always gets comments or stands out about how cool it is. And there really is another city in the country that is able to capture this and have everything in one place the way Philadelphia currently does. Now, where the issue arises with this is, like everything in life, it unfortunately comes down to money. And what the situation is as currently constructed is that building, the Wells Fargo Center, is owned by Comcast Spectacor, who are the owners of the Flyers here. So in this given situation, and what currently how the business operates, is the Sixers are tenants to the Flyers here, that they pay rent on that Wells Fargo to have their games there. Of course, I'm not saying these Sixers are hurting for money or there's anything along those lines, but the bottom line is that these guys, the Josh Harrises of the world, the David Blitzers of the world, the people who purchase these teams, as much as we live and die with every breathing game and every result of every matchup there, it's a business to them. At the end of the day, that is how they operate, how they look at things. So for the Sixers to maximize it as a business and what the bottom line potential for the franchise is, that's very clearly getting your own arena. That when we talk about these lucrative figures that constantly get attached to franchises, like the Celtics trying to be sold for $6 billion, insane money there, impossible to even wrap our brains around. But a lot of that comes with having the substance, having a building attached to us, that there's really a notable knock off your bottom line or what you could potentially be making if part of that business plan is continuing to be just recycling rent into this same facility for a building that you do not own. It's kind of the same argument that I hear thrown a lot when, I guess, talking in just the normal human being world here, like renting versus buying. That obviously, if you're having equity in a home and building up more money by paying off your mortgage every month, there is an end in sight, versus if you're just paying rent, you're not really moving towards a goal here. Now, granted, I can also speak to, for someone who's been attempting to move to Philadelphia for quite some time here, that I can't imagine that's some cheap rent that these Sixers are dealing with. And this is coming from someone who certainly isn't looking to move into something anywhere close to as large as the Wells Fargo Center here. But the point being that for the Sixers organization, that they very clearly look at this as a long-term financial opportunity, that they need to maximize their ultimate profit margin and have this team valued what they desire it to be. It needs a building that attached with it. Now, the pushback here, and to lay this out on a map exactly, has really been how this impacts Chinatown. And you can see the plan laid out where the location of the building will be. It's going to be in Center City, which is much more cramped quarters than those of us who have popped out to South Philly, to the Stadium District over there. And you can see on this map here, this little yellow square is Chinatown exactly. And then you can see it below it, that little black square is where 76th Place will be located. So very clearly put on this map, much smaller than Chinatown as a whole, but the fear being, what is the impact on the businesses that live in Chinatown, the people of Chinatown, and overall just in Center City in general. I'll put it this way, is that there are legitimate and illegitimate just concerns with this plan as a whole. There is definitely some weight to this will impact the people of Chinatown, and parking to me, I hear loud and clear as the number one argument. There was a deep dive from the city itself, kind of looking into like what would the effects, trying to look forward and see once this plan is put in place, what are the concerns, can the city even handle this amount of traffic at that particular area, because you drive through Center City at any point in the day, it's not like it's smooth sailing, and that's without thousands of people going to a basketball game being in the mix there. So I hear the concerns from parking. Basically what the findings of that overall deep dive was, is that if about 40% of people traveling with cars, 40% or lower, you're going to be fine. If there's more than that, which I think is likely to be the case, there's going to be some trouble, some gridlock and all that. Now, you can use examples in both cases here. I know Madison Square Garden in New York is looked at as in a lot of ways sort of the model for this, and obviously it works great in New York. I would argue New York is much more of a foot traffic type of city. I can certainly speak to, like, when I've been in New York, that I've been much more prone to walking. Now, some of that is obviously being a little bit more local here, having my car, all that type of thing. But the bottom line being that, like, there's examples where it works and examples where it's not. And we're not really going to know this until we can ultimately see things play this out. I think that is the part that has been, I guess, not properly acknowledged from the Chinatown side of things here, is I do think there's a world where this does absolutely work, and you have to acknowledge that's at least a possibility. That, to pull this up again, the exact building in which they're operating is, this is basically a dead area of the city. Now, there's been other plans that have projected and laid out here. I know there's a big health sciences building that wants to promote bringing a bunch of jobs, all that type of things. That's another thing that's going to be built there. But my point being with all of this, or could have been built there, is there's going to be something. That right now, there's a whole lot of just abandoned buildings, land that is not being used, and the city cannot have that for both the economic and eyesore reasons. The reality is something needs to be put there. So if you're the people of Chinatown, the Sixers stadium is far from the worst case situation in this regard. Now, the mayor is still pretty fiery about this. I want to pull up a couple more quotes here. She said that this agreement represents more than $1.3 billion of private investment in our city. It will mean hundreds of $1 millions in new tax revenue for the city of Philadelphia and our school district. It will also mean, and this is important, hundreds and hundreds of jobs for Philadelphians. It means an economic opportunity plan, quite frankly, the likes of which has never been seen in the city, and it represents the start of an unprecedented revival of Market Street, which, by the way, could absolutely use some revival there. Now, there was some statements from both the Sixers and Comcast here. Shout out to Crossing Broad, who I think has done an excellent job really getting both sides of the story in a way, like, papers like the Philadelphia Inquirer, some of the other bigger platforms in the city, I don't think have quite captured both sides in the way that they have. So shout out to Crossing Broad. And they got a statement from a Sixers spokesperson which said, quote, "We are grateful to Mayor Parker and her team for their time and diligence in evaluating our proposal and look forward to advancing to the next steps with City Council." A statement from Dan Hilferty of Comcast Spectacor said, quote, "Regardless of the outcome of the city's negotiations with Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment, our door will always be open for the 76ers to join in South Philadelphia if they ever conclude that that is what's best for their team. Alongside the Phillies, we are creating a dynamic and accessible destination for sports and entertainment that will create thousands of jobs, amplify our city, and create numerous community benefits. Either way, we always want what's best for Philadelphia." For my final couple points here, another plan that was tossed out there was this going to Camden, which, by the way, for the people that are super up in arms in the New Jersey, Philadelphia side of things, literally right over the bridge, like less than 10 minutes outside the city of Philadelphia, that it does take it to Camden. The Sixers currently have their practice facility there, right over BB&T Pavilion and all the other spots over there that I'm sure anyone around here has visited to as well. Plenty of concerts in that parking lot there. The point being that you can overlook it. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. But my pushback to that is, this was very clear to me, a little bit of a power play from the Sixers side of things, that this was, okay, if you don't want to give us what we want in the city, then we will take it out of the city. And obviously, with all the economic impact that is being acknowledged by the mayor, that's not something that the city wants to have happen. So I do think that was a bit of a leverage play. Although in the future, if this does fall apart because we are not in the end zone yet, keep that on the back burner for sure. And as far as like the takeaway from the Flyers perspective here, their other pushback to trying to prevent this from happening is, not only do you lose the income from obviously the building being filled up, in 41 games per year for Sixers games as well as playoffs. You also lose that guaranteed rent that they're being paid for you. And not only that, but that becomes competition as that there is now another stadium in the or in the area here, which is competition for concerts that you want to bring in, shows that you want to bring in, other teams that could potentially be looking to play there. This all makes things a little bit more difficult. So there is still some steps to go through. That Comcast is going to continue to fight this to the end, and they very clearly, the best case situation for them is the Sixers to return and play South Philly, where they currently are with the Wells Fargo Arena. So bottom line, a lot of nonsense going on behind the scenes. None of this is going to overall impact the Sixers season, and it's very frustrating that this has been a continued talking point. But I did think that it was important enough to want to jump on here and address. I do want to hear from you guys because there has been kind of a wide, I guess, variety of opinions on this. I'm still pretty neutral on the topic overall. I understand the economic side of things, and I think people, I guess, are not acknowledging that as that is really the driving force of all this. But ultimately, let me know in the comments. Drop a like, subscribe, and talk with you next time right here on Sixers Digest.